Hey everyone, in this video, I'm going to be walking you through how to build your very own income statement in Google Sheets from scratch. So this is perfect for those who want a simple but automated way of tracking their financial health at all times. So let's take a closer look at what we're actually going to be building out together. We're going to be building out two tabs. The first tab is where we'll keep track of all of our income and expense transactions, and we'll also be building out some neat pie charts here too to break down spend by category. And then in the second tab, this is where we're going to be building out our automated income statement. I say automated because as you input transactions into the first tab, it's going to auto populate into the respective income statement account. This is going to be achieved through what we call functions. All right, so let's get started. So in a new Google Sheet, first thing we're going to do is add a second tab. So we've got two tabs down at the bottom. The first tab here, we're going to rename this to transactions. And the second tab here, we're going to rename to income statement, or you could call it profit and loss. So within this income statement tab, we're going to first start off by building out our structure. Don't worry too much about formatting right now. You can format your spreadsheet later. Let's just get the general structure built out. So somewhere around sort of the middle of the page here, let's just add in our company name. So in my case, I'm going to call my company My Coffee Company. And this is the profit and loss statement or income statement. And it's for the year ended December 31st, 2024, as typically income statements or profit and loss statements span the course of a year. I'm just going to go ahead and center this. And then let's build out our income and expense categories for our income statement. So just a couple lines down here, let's go ahead and type in income. And then, a couple lines down here, expenses. And then let's actually build in our categories. So this is where it's going to really depend on your business and how you want to track revenue. So you could do something as simple as just sales and then just track everything to sales, or revenue, for example. But in my case, I run a coffee company, so I want to break down sales by actual coffee sales, maybe merchandise sales, and let's say I offer consulting services. So those will be my three categories. You can add more if you'd like, but this is just a way to track revenue by category, essentially. And actually, once I do that, I'm going to add in a line for total income. And that looks pretty good. And then same thing with the expenses. Just go ahead and add in a bunch of expense categories relevant to your business. So I'm just going to add a bunch of these. Okay, so I just added in a few others here, and then I will add in a line item for total expenses and total profit. I mean, you can call the final line total profit or net income or wherever you'd like. Just go total profit. And perfect. And then over here on the right-hand side, this is where we'll track in one of these columns the actual amounts, but we're going to be building out a function that summarizes the transactions in the first tab to auto-populate the total balances here. Now, before we start adding any formulas or functions, let's start building out the transactions tab first. So let's head over to the transactions tab, and we're basically going to create two sections here, one section to track all of our income transactions and another section to track all of our expense transactions. So about a third of the page down, let's just start adding in a bunch of columns here. So, you can really set up any columns you'd like, but these are the ones that I'm going to go with. So for every transaction, I want to track a reference number, a date, the category or the account. So I'll actually call this income account. Then I'm going to categorize each transaction to the amount, and let's add in a section for notes. So this will be for the revenue or the income section. So I'm just going to up top put a title, income, And before we start building out the expense side of things, let's fully build out the income section of transactions, and then we can just copy and paste our formatting and cells over to the expense side of things. So before we do all that, let's actually format some of these columns. Specifically, let's start off with the date column. So instead of having to enter in a date manually every single time, like Jan 1st, 2024, we want to be able to build a calendar picker. So it makes it easier for us to pick a date. So in order to do that, just hit Command Shift down on your keyboard just to select all of the cells here. And then we're going to do two things. First, we're going to go to Format and then Number, and we're going to go to Custom Date and Time and just pick the date format that you want to go with. I'm going to go with this second one here and click Apply. And then the second thing you need to do is click into Data Validation, and we're going to add a rule. Under Criteria, we're going to go and select Is Valid Date and click Done. So this is going to give us that calendar functionality. So now when I click into the cell, I can actually go in and pick specific dates from a calendar, making it much easier for me to select the date for my transactions. Okay, the next column here, income account, this is where we're going to reference the revenue or income categories that we set up here in our income statement. So in order to do this, instead of manually entering them each time, again, Command Shift arrow key down, and I'm on a MacBook here, just for reference. And what we're going to do here is click into Data Validation, Add Rule, and then under Criteria, we're going to click Drop Down from Range, and then we're going to click this data range icon. And then we're going to head over to the income statement, and this is where we're going to select our income categories and click OK. And now you can see that they appear here on the right-hand side. And then here under Advanced Options, I'm just going to change my display style to an arrow, totally optional, and click OK. So now every time we enter a transaction, we can specify what type of income category it relates to. Now the amount column is just going to be the actual number that we input. You can go ahead and format this the way you want. I'm just going to go ahead and use the accounting formatting, and then I'm just going to change up the alignment here. So that's pretty much it in terms of the base structure. But what we want to do is add in a few more transactions here so we have enough data before we start building out our function. So go ahead and populate, the income side of things here with a bit more data. I'm just going to copy a bunch of data that I have in another sheet and bring it over here. Perfect. So now I have a bunch of data spanning a bunch of months. All right, so that looks pretty good. Now comes the fun part. Now we're going to add in the function that helps to automate this income statement. So let's head over to the income statement tab. And somewhere here on the right-hand side, let's just pick this cell here. This is where we're going to add in the sum of these income categories here. So in order to add this formula or this function, type in the following. It's going to be a sum if function. So equals sum if, open bracket. And what we're essentially trying to do here is we're trying to tell Google Sheets that if the income account here in column D is equal to the income category or account here in column F in the income statement tab, then sum all of the corresponding amounts here in column E and add them here in column I. So in order to do that, we're going to open bracket, and first thing we're going to do is head over to the Transactions tab, and we are going to reference the income accounts here in column D. So select the first one, Command Shift down. You can just go all the way down to the end of the tab, and we're going to hit comma, come back here, and we're going to try and see if there's a match between this column and this specific cell, so in my case F11. And if that's the case, then comma, we want to add up everything here in column E. So then head back here to transactions, Again, select the first cell, Command Shift down, select the entire column, head back here, and close bracket. So now you can see it brought over an amount here. So let's just make sure that this is accurate. So if we go back to our transactions tab, let's summarize all of the coffee sales transactions. Let's see if this is accurate. So yeah, you can see here 3,320, 3,320. So you basically just need to go in and repeat that process for the other accounts here. Now, one thing to note, if you drag and drop, this is totally fine, but take a look at this updated function. It's going to reference the correct cell here, but it's looking at transactions starting at the next row down. So in this case, D10, and then in this one, D11, E11. So you got to make sure that you're actually referencing the first cell, or it's not going to pick up all of the transactions. So the easiest way, in my opinion, is to actually just take this original function and just copy and paste it down here, and then just change the reference cell here. So instead of F11, reference F12, and then do that again here. Instead of referencing F11, referencing F13 in this case. Okay, so now before we build out the expense side of things, let's go ahead and update some of our formatting so that we can easily go ahead and copy and paste over our income section over to the expense section, making it easier for us. So I'm going to go ahead and speed up this video, but essentially what you want to do here is just update your formatting. You can follow along and then just build in the formatting that you'd like. All right, so now that we've had a little bit of fun formatting, let's go back and build out the expense side of things. So let's head over to transactions. And we already have the shell here from the income side of things. So this is really nice. We can actually just copy all of these columns over. Control C, Control V. So just rename the header here to expenses. And then the category here to expense account. And then, of course, you can see here that this is still referencing the revenue account. So what you want to do here is just head over to data validation and then find the rule that's referencing both of these, click into it and select this little cell icon and then delete, in my case, column J, and click OK. And now you can see that's the arrows have been removed here. So just go ahead and in this column, Command Shift down, delete all these entries, and then back to data validation. Add a new rule, drop down from range, select this range icon, and then we're going to reference the expense accounts in this case. Click OK, select the arrow style here, click done, and we should be good. We scroll back up. There you go. So you'll see now this references the expense account. So, just go ahead and fill a bunch of these out just so you have some data in here. And I'll just drag and drop a bunch of these. Perfect. And I'll just change some of these amounts. Perfect. So now that we've added in the expense transactions, we pretty much just have to go back into the income statement and build this function down here for these expense categories. So it's the exact same method. We're just going to be referencing different columns. So let's go ahead and copy this sum if formula down here. So as a reference point, you can see that obviously that's going to equal this, but we just need to point it to different columns. So instead of pointing this to transactions D9 to D1000, we're going to be pointing that to J. So J J9, J1000, which is where the expense categories are, and the amount here is in K. So head over here to the end of this function and type in K. And yeah, we also have to reference this particular cell, which is F19. There we go. And now same way, just go ahead and copy this down and then just make sure this is referenced accordingly. So F19, F20, 21. Two. All right, so now that that's done, now we've got our expenses all added up, and you can just double check these. So advertising expenses 550. So just double check that. So advertising, that's easy. So you can see here 550. Oops. Is the sum. So that's working well. So now that we have that, let's total up the income statement. So in order to do that, the first thing we're going to do is sum up the total income. So that's just a sum formula equals sum, open brackets, reference all the cells above, and then total expenses, same way, equals sum, open brackets, reference all of the expense line items above. And then total profit is just going to be total income minus expenses. So equals this total minus this total. And you can see in this case, you've got a profit of 3780. So as I said, this is automated. So as you start adding other line items and transactions, or you update existing ones, like let's just say we updated this advertising to $10,000, you'll see here that advertising fees is updated, and it's a net loss in this case of $6,000. So that is pretty much it in terms of the automated income statement, as you can see. So as a bonus, let's go in and build out the pie chart that I showed you in the preview to this video, which will pretty much showcase a summary of all your income categories and your expense categories by total spend and total revenue. So in order to do that, we're going to be inserting a chart. So the data that we're going to be referencing here is, we'll do the income side of things first. So just highlight these two columns, Command Shift down, and then let's scroll up and then go ahead and click Insert Chart. And then we're going to be building, if you click on Chart Type, a pie chart. And there's different options here. I'm going to go ahead and select this first one. And what we're going to do is you got to make sure your labels and your values are correct. So the label looks good. I just want to aggregate this so that it shows the total amount. So it's going to show all of my revenue categories and the percentage of revenue that I incur from each of these categories in total, based on the transactions below, of course. And I mean, that's really the pie chart. And then you can go in and customize this further. So let's go ahead and do that. And before I finish customizing this, what I'm going to do actually is close out of here. I'll move this over to the side. I'm actually going to just enter a total sum for the revenue accounts below. So right in this cell, right in the middle, I'll just click on equals, enter a function or a formula, sorry, called equals sum, open bracket, select the first column here, Command Shift down, close bracket. So that just gives me a running total at all times. And then let's just format this as we need. Just going to change this back to a regular number and put this in the middle there. And now you can see that this chart looks a little nicer in the middle. And of course, you can play around with the formatting and change this up as needed. But there's really a pie chart that shows the total sum of revenue or percentage of revenue split up between the different accounts. So as I said, go ahead and format this the way you want, add in your colors. And I'm just going to remove this title here. Perfect. So that looks pretty good. And then just resize and stuff as needed. So now we're just going to pretty much go and repeat that exact chart for the expense side of things. So same way, just highlight the expense columns here, Command Shift down, and then we're going to go insert chart, use the same chart. We're going to aggregate this, and we're pretty much just going to do the same settings here. So no background color, no border, go 75%. And yeah, I mean, go ahead and update whatever colors you want to use for this. There we go. That looks good enough to me. We'll move this title, and I think we're pretty much done there. So that's pretty much it. And then, just go ahead and add in the sum of the expenses. So equals sum, open bracket, Command Shift down, enter. And there we go. Just format this. Let's center this. There we go. So now you pretty much have a running total at all times and a running percentage at all times of your income and expenses. So for example, let's say coffee sales entered a new transaction or updated this one, you'll see this pie chart updates. Same here, advertising expenses. If I just update this, you'll see that this updates as well. So it's all real time. So on this tab, you've got all of your transactions, a summary of total spend and income coming in, along with a percentage split by category. And then over on the second tab, you've got an ongoing income statement. All right, so that pretty much concludes this tutorial. I hope you found this helpful. Let me know what you'd like me to build out next. I'll see you in the next one.